You wake up exhausted, drag yourself to the kitchen, and within 20 minutes of that first cup, you feel like a functioning human being again. That feels like energy. It is not energy. It is your brain being chemically deceived into thinking it is not tired. And there is a biological price tag attached to every single sip you take. Your body is running a tab, and it has been running it for years. Over 2 billion cups of coffee are consumed every single day on this planet. Most of the people drinking them believe they are getting a boost. They are not. They are borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today, and the lender charging the interest is a tiny molecule your doctor has almost certainly never mentioned to you. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what caffeine is actually doing inside your brain, your adrenal glands, your gut, and your cardiovascular system from the moment you take your first sip to the moment you finally crash. And more importantly, you will understand the 4-step protocol that lets you use coffee as a genuine performance enhancer instead of a biological debt machine. Here is the biology you need first. Deep inside your brain, right now, millions of neurons are doing work. Every second your brain is conscious and processing, every neuron that fires produces a byproduct. That byproduct is called adenosine. Think of adenosine as the exhaust smoke of your brain's engine. The longer you run the engine, the more smoke builds up. Your brain has receptors specifically designed to detect adenosine. They function like parking spaces. The more adenosine molecules park in those spaces, the more strongly your brain gets the signal. Slow down, rest, sleep. This is called sleep pressure, and it is the most ancient and fundamental biological mechanism your body uses to regulate consciousness. After 16 hours of being awake, your adenosine parking lot is nearly full. Your eyelids get heavy. Your thoughts slow down. This is not weakness. This is your biology protecting you. Sleep is when your glymphatic system, the brain's waste disposal unit, activates, flushing out the accumulated adenosine and other toxic debris. The University of Rochester Medical Center confirmed that this glymphatic cleaning process is up to 10 times more active during sleep than during waking hours. After a full night of sleep, the lot is cleared, and you wake up genuinely restored. This is how the system is supposed to work. Caffeine does not give you energy. Caffeine is a molecular imposter. Its structure is so similar to adenosine that it fits perfectly into the same parking spaces, locks in, and blocks adenosine from occupying them. The adenosine is still there. It is still accumulating. But the parking lot appears full of fake cars that send no signal. Your brain does not get the message to slow down. You feel alert. You feel capable. You feel like the coffee worked. But the adenosine keeps building in the background, waiting. This is the adenosine debt. Every hour of caffeine block signaling is an hour of fatigue your body is quietly warehousing. When the caffeine wears off, and it will wear off, every single molecule of adenosine that has been waiting in the queue floods the receptors simultaneously. This is the crash. It is not a crash because caffeine wore off. It is a crash because your body is finally delivering 4 hours of accumulated fatigue bills all at once. And the standard response to this crash is another cup of coffee, which starts the cycle again. Most people live inside this debt cycle every single day of their adult lives without ever realizing it. Now here is the misconception that gets people hurt. They assume that as long as they are drinking the same amount of coffee and feeling roughly awake, the system is balanced. That is logically sound, but physiologically incorrect. Because caffeine does not just interact with adenosine, it triggers a full-spectrum stress response throughout your body every time it enters your bloodstream. The moment caffeine hits your system, your adrenal glands receive a hormonal command. They release cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases. Your blood pressure rises. Your liver dumps glucose into the bloodstream. Your pupils dilate slightly. Your body interprets caffeine as a threat signal, an alarm telling the organism to prepare for a fight or a sprint. This is not a metaphor. Lavallo et al., published in Psychosomatic Medicine in 2005, confirmed that moderate caffeine consumption produces cortisol increases between 30% and 100%, depending on the individual and the dose. Your morning cup is not a gentle nudge. It is a biochemical fire alarm being pulled in a building that was peacefully asleep 30 minutes ago. For most healthy adults under 30, this is manageable. The adrenal glands are young, resilient, and recover quickly. But there is a catch, because there is always a catch. The vast majority of coffee drinkers make one catastrophic timing mistake that turns this manageable stress response into a years-long hormonal disruption. They drink their first cup immediately after waking up. Here is what your body is already doing in the first 30 to 90 minutes after your eyes open. Your cortisol is naturally at its highest point of the entire day. Your biology designed this morning cortisol surge specifically to pull you from sleep into full waking alertness. It is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is the most powerful and natural energy signal your body produces. Cortisol spikes 50% to 100% above baseline within 30 minutes of waking. If you were simply to sit with this natural surge, let it do its biological job, and eat a proper meal, you would feel awake and sharp without any caffeine at all. But when you drink coffee in that window, you are stacking an artificial cortisol spike directly on top of a natural cortisol peak. Two cortisol hammers hitting the same nail simultaneously. Your adrenal glands receive a signal far beyond what they were designed to process at that moment. The result is the system rapidly downregulating. Your cortisol receptors become desensitized to their own hormone. Over weeks and months of repeating this pattern, your morning cortisol surge becomes flatter and flatter. Your body stops trusting its own natural alarm system. Now you genuinely need the coffee to feel awake at all. Not because caffeine is powerful, but because your natural alertness mechanism has been blunted by overstimulation. This is the cortisol collapse trap, and it is the reason millions of people describe themselves as unable to function without coffee, unable to think clearly, and unable to feel properly awake in the morning, even after a full night of sleep. They have not become coffee addicts because they lack willpower. They have become physiologically dependent because they have been systematically dismantling their own biology, one morning cup at a time. Now here is the hidden mechanism inside your gut that almost no one talks about. Your gastrointestinal system operates on a precise internal clock. After sleep, your digestive system goes through a process called the migrating motor complex, a synchronized wave of muscle contractions that sweeps through the small intestine and clears out undigested debris from the previous day. It is essentially a self-cleaning cycle that runs on a predictable schedule in the early morning before food is introduced. Think of it as the overnight cleaning crew finishing their shift and preparing the factory floor for the day's production. When that process completes without interruption, your gut is primed for efficient digestion, stable blood sugar, and minimal inflammation throughout the day. Caffeine in the stomach immediately triggers the release of gastrin, a hormone that commands the stomach to produce acid. It also accelerates gastric emptying and amplifies motility throughout the entire digestive tract. This is why coffee sends many people directly to the bathroom within 20 minutes. That speed feels satisfying, feels like efficiency. It is not. Your migrating motor complex has been interrupted before completion. The clearing cycle is cut short. Residue remains in the small intestine. This undigested material becomes a food source for bacteria that belong in the large intestine, not the small intestine. Over time, this pattern contributes to bloating, gas, irregular motility, and, in susceptible individuals, the progression of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, a condition that has been linked to everything from chronic fatigue to skin disorders to anxiety. A narrative review published in the journal Nutrients confirms that coffee consumption accelerates gastric emptying and increases gastric acid secretion, and that consuming coffee without food significantly amplifies both the acid response and associated gastrointestinal discomfort compared to consuming it alongside a meal. The chemistry was identical, the timing was not. Here is where the science gets truly shocking. Your heart is not neutral about your morning coffee either. The cardiovascular system of a regular caffeine consumer adapts to the daily cortisol and adrenaline cascade by thickening the walls of certain blood vessels slightly and modestly increasing baseline arterial stiffness. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition documented that chronic, high caffeine intake is associated with a measurable increase in arterial stiffness, a key independent predictor of cardiovascular risk, even in individuals with no other cardiac risk factors, normal blood pressure, and ideal body weight. Your arteries are supposed to be flexible. They are designed to expand and contract with each heartbeat, like living rubber bands. When they stiffen, the heart has to work harder to push blood through them. This elevated workload, sustained over years and decades, contributes to left ventricular strain. Your heart is not just pumping, it is pushing against resistance. The more stiff the arteries, the higher the load. Over 20 or 30 years of daily high-dose caffeine consumption, this is not a trivial contributor to cardiovascular aging. Here is the part nobody talks about. For people who experience the 3 a.m. wake-up, sudden racing heart in the early morning, anxiety that seems to have no identifiable cause, or persistent difficulty falling back to sleep after waking, there is often one common culprit. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours in most people. In certain individuals with a specific variant of the CYP1A2 gene, that half-life stretches to 9 or even 12 hours. If you drink a cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon, and you are a slow metabolizer, half of that caffeine is still circulating in your bloodstream at 2 in the morning. You are not anxious. You are not a light sleeper. You are chemically stimulated in a body trying desperately to repair itself. The slow metabolism trap affects approximately 50% of the population, according to genetic research published in Nutrients in 2020. Half of all regular coffee drinkers are consuming caffeine on a schedule that is chemically incompatible with their genetics, and they have no idea. They blame stress, blame age, blame the news, blame their partner, when in reality, they drank a cup of coffee too late in the afternoon and their liver simply does not process it fast enough. Now, the skeptics will say, but studies show coffee reduces the risk of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, liver disease, type 2 diabetes, and several cancers. That is absolutely true, and those studies represent real, reproducible, robust science. This is not an anti-coffee argument. Coffee contains over 1,000 bioactive compounds, including chlorogenic acids, polyphenols, and diterpenes that have genuine protective effects on the liver, the brain, and metabolic tissues at the cellular level. The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that habitual moderate coffee consumption of 2 to 4 cups per day was associated with significantly lower all-cause mortality compared to no coffee consumption. Coffee is not the villain. The timing, the dose, and the delivery are. Here is the protocol that changes everything. The approach is called the Circadian Coffee Reset, and it has 4 sequential steps that work with your biology instead of against it. Step 1 is the cortisol window. Do not drink your first cup of coffee until at least 90 minutes after you wake up. Let your natural cortisol awakening response finish its work. Your body is doing everything coffee does for free, with 0 adrenal stress, 0 adenosine debt, and 0 cortisol receptor blunting. Drink water first. Move your body for 10 minutes. Eat a real breakfast. Then, at the 90-minute mark, your natural cortisol is descending from its peak, and caffeine can genuinely extend your alertness window rather than collide with and damage your own hormonal system. The difference is not subtle. Most people who make this single change report that the same amount of coffee feels dramatically more effective because it now acts as a supplement to a functioning system rather than a crutch for a broken one. Step 2 is the noon cutoff. If you are a normal caffeine metabolizer, roughly 5 to 6 hour half-life, your noon cutoff means caffeine is below functional levels by 10 or 11 at night. Your sleep architecture is protected. Your glymphatic system can run its full overnight clearing cycle. If you suspect you are a slow metabolizer, push the cutoff to 11 in the morning. You will know within 2 weeks whether your sleep quality improves. It will. Step 3 is the adenosine harvest. 1 to 2 times per week, take a complete caffeine rest day. Do not replace it with anything. Sit in the discomfort of a naturally sluggish morning. What you are actually doing on those days is allowing your adenosine receptors to upregulate back to full sensitivity. This is the biological reset that prevents tolerance from building. It is also why so many people report that after a week off coffee, when they return to it, the effect feels extraordinary, almost alarming. Their receptors are freshly sensitized. Their adrenal glands have had time to recover. This is what your baseline was always supposed to feel like. Step 4 is the buffer meal. Never drink coffee on an empty stomach. The gastrin release, the acid production, and the accelerated gastric emptying that coffee triggers are significantly amplified without food present. Even a small amount of protein and fat, 2 eggs, a handful of nuts, Greek yogurt, blunts the acid cascade, stabilizes blood glucose through the caffeine absorption window, and prevents the cortisol from spiking as sharply. This one change alone resolves acid reflux symptoms in the majority of people who experience them from morning coffee. You are not addicted to caffeine because you lack discipline. You are biologically adjusted to a timing pattern that has been slowly degrading your sleep, flattening your natural hormones, and blunting the very receptors that caffeine needs to work on. The molecule itself is not the problem. The protocol is. When you shift the timing, protect the sleep, and respect the adenosine system, coffee becomes what it was always capable of being. One of the most effective cognitive enhancers available to human beings, backed by decades of health research, derived from a plant, and sitting in your kitchen right now. You do not need to quit. You need to stop borrowing and start earning it. The biology has not failed you. The schedule has. Fix the schedule, and the biology fixes itself. That is not a promise. That is chemistry. Drop a comment below and tell me what time you drink your first cup, and whether you're going to shift the window. If this is the first time you've heard of the cortisol awakening response, type "I didn't know" so I can see how many people are running this hidden deficit every single morning. Hit the like button because this is information the supplement industry genuinely does not want you to have. It is free, it works, and it requires nothing but a clock. And subscribe with notifications on because the next video covers what happens to your brain during the 90 minutes before you fall asleep. And what you are almost certainly doing in that window that is destroying the very sleep that caffeine is robbing you of. Stay sharp. Stay rested. Start tomorrow, 90 minutes later.